Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
We're back at the Pixel Core Studios, and we're looking at, well, the Mac Pro and the Pegasus and 4K displays, and we're looking at all the accoutrements of essentially high-performance video editing. And I like that high-performance video editing and monitoring. So we're going to continue to explore this aspect of performance. And in this episode, we're going to actually open up Final Cut and look at the different ways which you configure and Playback and get various performance configurations, right?
I mean, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. It's nice to talk about numbers and throughput and everything, but let's see what you can actually do with Final Cut and why this kind of configuration may allow you to do more than you could do in other ways. So before we actually do the Final Cut, I'm going to do one more thing, which is test the speed of these drives, because it's just good to have a reference point.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, and there's a pretty standard speed test application from Blackmagic called Blackmagic Disk Speed Test.
Speed test.
Right, to test them. And what I'm going to do here is I already have a couple of tests for some other drives. So what I want to show you, I have here a little dock, a little Thunderbolt dock that allows you to plug in a bare 2.5-inch drive, like a little laptop drive, directly over Thunderbolt 1, to which I use with my MacBook Pro.
Right.
Okay. And I use this often. Just we move projects back and forth with it, but I've used it to edit with too, and it works well. I wouldn't do 4K editing with it, but I can do HD streaming of ProRes on that, and it works just fine.
So what did your performance test
so here, check this out. And this is kind of a good starting point to kind of understand. So here, this little drive, yields about 40 megabytes per second, okay?
40 megabytes, that's still really good for a little drive.
For a tiny little drive. I mean, it actually can play back and work with it. I mean, you're kind of pushing it, but it can work. But that's a starting point, just to get ourselves oriented. Now from there, another thing that I frequently actually edit off is this guy here. And I know you've got one of these too. I love these things.
Yeah, we call this little toaster.
The toaster.
So you could just push this and it goes in like toast. Yeah. It's awesome.
And by the way, can you pop it out again?
Yeah.
It will. It'll hold the small drive too. Either way, it can put either one in there. But it connects. This is a FireWire. There's a bunch of connectors in the back, but it's not Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Because at the time they didn't have one. They probably do now.
eSATA, FireWire,
right.
USB 2.
So I go from FireWire to a Thunderbolt adapter to my MacBook Pro, and I can actually play back a single stream of optimized 4K off of this on a MacBook Pro. So there's things you can do on an iMac or MacBook Pro that are pretty impressive. And if we look at the data rate on that thing, that's better.
It's close to 70.
Yeah, it's close. It's in the neighborhood of twice.
80, yeah.
Right. It's close in the neighborhood of twice as fast as this other guy right here. So 60, 80, something like that. Now check this out. If you look at the speed of the internal drive on the MacBook Pro,
which is an SSD drive.
It's an SSD, right?
There's no spindle, no mechanical.
Yes. This is an early 2013. Check out the speed on that thing.
Oh my gosh. 450 megabytes per second.
It's a very fast drive. Now, in a sustained basis,
that's the internal SSD of this.
No. Of my MacBook Pro.
Oh,
of my laptop.
Which is an SSD drive.
Right, which is an SSD. That's the point. It's an SSD, so it's very fast. So there's some, validity for short projects to throw them on your internal drive. And the thing is, the internal drive is handling a lot of stuff because it's doing the OS, running applications and everything. So it's not always necessarily a good idea, but I just want to show you an idea of what the speed is on that. So from there, rather than just looking at screenshots, let's actually launch the Blackmagic Disk Speed Test. And what I'm going to do, I can click this gear here and select a target drive. I'm going to select the promised Pegasus.
It's this one here.
And right, that's our R8 right here. And let's see what the speed looks like on that. So I'll start it up. And
it's doing writes.
Yeah, and it might, you let it kind of go through once or twice because this thing needs to kind of spin up for a second here. So, but already we're at 774, we're more than twice that internal SSD. And by the way, this is not full of SSDs. This is full of spinning plates.
Right.
It's, typical
platters,
right. And what we're going to see is,
look at that.
Yeah, about 800
megabytes
read and write
per second.
Right. So it's got a huge amount of capacity of disk speed, which, by the way, this doesn't come close, obviously, to saturating this this Thunderbolt 2 20 gigabits per second pipe.
Right.
right? Nowhere close to it. There's
now,
a lot of headroom.
That's pretty impressive. Now, if you really want to impress me, run it on the internal SSD.
Okay.
I'd like to see that.
So what we'll do is we'll select the desktop, and just to see, this is the desktop of the Mac Pro. Okay, so I'm selecting the Mac Pro drive.
Wait, it said Mark's Mac Pro. It's my birthday present. This is Mark's. What the?
Well, you were out of the room for a few minutes, and
Wait a minute.
You can't leave that thing alone. So let's check this one out. And it's kind of, this speed test thing wasn't made to handle this because it's just peaking out completely.
Well, what's amazing is that you're really talking about essentially a gigabyte per second being pushed through this pipe.
Right, and if you look below at the graph, the graph actually only goes up to 2K.
Right.
And obviously everything's checked because it can basically do anything that you can throw at it, including 4K, which isn't even included on the chart.
Sure.
So that just gives us some sense of what's capable, and that's all well and good, and it's great to know those numbers. But let's really go where the rubber meets the road. Okay.
Final Cut Pro.
With Final Cut Pro. So here we are in Final Cut Pro, and let's examine exactly what this project is that we're looking at. So,
well, but before you do, we were talking off screen a little while ago. There's like 3 pillars of performance. So you want to look at that.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Yes.
So the 3 pillars of the performance are playback.
Well,
import.
Import.
Right.
Yeah.
How fast can you actually import stuff?
Right.
And transcode it. How performance for playing back. How many streams playing back, and how fast you can actually share or export this stuff.
Yeah, render, export.
Right.
All
So
that
those
stuff.
are the 3 things you want to consider when you're looking at a system to purchase.
Thank you, and thank you for reminding me of that. So in fact, let's go ahead and look at importing. So I'm just going to create a new library, and I'll just leave it as untitled, and I'll put that library on the Pegasus, and let's just call it MBS import. This Bluetooth keyboard is laid out a little differently than my regular one. It's a little tricky. So, and I'm going to click import. And what I'm going to do is on the
desktop, you had a 4K file.
I intentionally put it on the desktop. I have a there it is. I have an R3D file. So this is
looks like about a minute long.
Yeah, it's about a minute long, see 54 seconds, it's 2.15 gigs.
Got it.
So this is a red raw file, an R3D file, straight off the camera,
right.
Okay? And what I'm gonna do is click Import Selected. Now, we immediately get this warning that we're gonna totally disregard because you've already explained this warning in other MacBreak Studios.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna get into that right now because we don't care.
Right,
we can go back and look at those. Now, click OK, yeah, that's generally click OK. That's so your advice, I love that. So the key thing here is, if I were just to import this, and if I were to leave it in place, it would just be done. You're not testing anything.
It's just pointing to the file. It's putting symlinks to the file on the desktop.
But if I were to import it and copy, let's say I'm going to copy into this library, okay, that's just going to do a copy operation. But what I'm really, and that'll be fast because it's a very fast drive.
It's 2 gigabytes. Boom.
Yeah,
it's going to be fast.
Right, done. But what I care about is this, transcoding. Right, that's where we want to see how much faster this can be. So I'll select to create optimized end proxy media and click import. And then let's go ahead and look at the background tasks. And we can see it importing. So first it's file copy's done, 2 gigs like that.
Right.
And now it's starting the transcode.
Yes.
Okay, so as a comparison point, I did the same exact test on my 2013 MacBook Pro. Which is a earlier 2013 model, and on that machine to do the optimizing of to do the transcode of optimizing
this exact file,
exact same thing into optimizing proxy. Thank you. It took about 7 minutes to do that.
7 minutes.
Okay, this 1 minute of read, 7 minutes. If you kind of think about if you've got a lot of footage, that's not insignificant.
It's not.
If you're transcoding.
Nope. No, it's not.
Okay, this machine, instead of 7 minutes, and I'm probably not going to let it finish the whole thing, takes about 3.5 minutes. It's more than twice as fast than my MacBook Pro. And so this is where it gets interesting, and this is where you start thinking about ROI. What's your return on investment if you're going to spend an incremental, you're going to, instead of $4,000, you're going to spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, and you've got a display and everything. What's your return? And if you are somebody for whom time is money in terms of needing to transcode stuff to get to work, and it will save you a day. Over the course of the year, it saves you 10 days, and your days are worth $1,000 a day. So it's okay, this is going to pay for itself.
Of course.
Besides, it just looks cool.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, it has tangible benefit in terms of increasing the speed of transcoding.
So you have to weigh that out.
Yeah, exactly. You have to decide if that makes sense to you. Honestly, for me, when I need to transcode projects, I let them run overnight. I'm not generally not on working in a facility that we're cranking out one after the other.
Sure.
I can let it do overnight, so it's not as a big deal for me. Just that's my own personal experience. So that's number one, transcodes. Number two would be playback performance. Okay,
Yes, that's
how do
right.
things play back? And
Exactly, and what's being played back, and how many streams of what's being played back.
Yeah. And there's a lot, I mean, we talk about this a lot, but I want to give one specific example here. So this is your show you shot, and maybe talk a little bit about what it was shot with. And
Yeah, we're doing a short film, and we're on Coronado Island in San Diego. A beautiful day, beautiful actress, and handsome guy, and we just got this really great little short that we did, and we shot it on the Red Epic camera. You know, same one that was
right.
Lord of the Rings, excuse me, The Hobbit, what have you. That's the camera we shot with, and we have a 4K footage, and some of the stuff we shot in 5K. And now that you asked me at one point, well, why 5K? Well, we wanted this extra large frame if we want to do some cropping and reframing.
Move around.
That's exactly why.
Okay.
So I've had some time to think about it.
Okay.
It's been a few months since we shot this. So
let's look at this for a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to park on a frame, and I'm going to hit Shift F to reveal in browser. You know, our old match frame friend. And these are actually, you can't quite see the whole name there. Maybe if I go to list view, you can see that these are synchronized clips. I'll go back here. These are synchronized clips because you shot with dual system sound.
Absolutely.
So what I'm going to do is right-click on that guy and choose Open in Timeline because I want to look at the original video. And I'm going to open the inspector. So this is what I wanted to see. This video clip is 3840 by 2160, so it's an HD clip, quad HD. You know, exactly four times the size as 1920 by 1080. 24 frames a second, but this is the main thing. For this project, we chose not to optimize, okay? So we're looking at, in this project, the original red raw R3D file, not optimized, which is more difficult to play back. Okay, it's a smaller file, but it's more difficult to play back. But what's cool is,
and I should mention, just offset, in order to even play this back, you have to install the Red plugin.
Oh yes, yes. Thank you for mentioning that. In fact, I put on the desktop everything I installed on this machine for you. Besides the Final Cut Motion and Compressor, I put in FX Factory, so we have our plugins. I put in DaVinci Resolve. I put in the plugin, the Red plugin, and also Red CineX. Comes along with it, so you get the player. So that's all installed in there. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's absolutely necessary. You'll notice that there aren't any render bars on most of this because this is a 4K timeline.
It's native 4K.
Yeah, if you look at the bottom here, you can see that this is a 4K timeline, so there's no rendering necessary. There is render bars here because there's a transition, and then these render bars are, if I move my playhead over it, you'll see up in the inspector, this is your 5K. Okay, so you had some 5K shots here, and that's why there's render bars. So, you know, enough talking, let's actually look at a little bit of this play. And let's see if we can get a little bit of volume in there.
Sorry, that's my boss. I have to send these files. The meeting's been moved to the morning.
Tomorrow? The Jaworski?
Zawalski.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have to get up early in the morning.
Really? You have to leave me right now. Oh, man.
Again, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're playing back raw R3D files. In real time, no issues, it's buttery smooth. Now we have in the past shown that you could actually play the same file back on a MacBook Pro. Okay, so I don't want to, like it's not like you have to have a Mac Pro to do this, but we were really pushing it, right? You can play it a little bit, if you keep playing it for a while, it's going to start to stutter. But this, you're doing this with headroom.
Yeah, plenty of headroom.
Plenty of headroom. Plenty of room to modify your red raw settings, to add effects, to do different things to the clip. And so this is a potential workflow, and I actually know some people that this is their workflow that they never optimize because they want to cut right away. Even though this Mac Pro will optimize, transcode the media twice as fast as it's still 3 minutes per minute of clip. So if you've got an hour of footage, it's 3 hours. And you can cut right away. I mean, you can import and have it transcode in the background while you're cutting, but he doesn't do that. He just imports and cuts red raw straight. And often color corrects in Final Cut as well. So that's just one example of something you can do with this kind of setup, is very comfortably play red raw. let's see what else. Oh, so you have a great example of doing something that is HD, but it's not red.
It's not video,
or
it's not red.
Right.
Because you can still work with 2K, or, excuse me, 4K. I really enjoy doing time lapse with my DSLRs.
So what do we have here? We have a bunch of stills that are.
A bunch of stills. Did you double click open the project? There's a GM 4K.
I have 4K right here. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of stills, and if you looked at it, if you look at them in the inspector, they're essentially 3456 by 2304,
okay.
Roughly 4K.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you go back to the project, you can see here, this is a 4K project.
Look at the bottom, okay.
And it has an orange render bar over it because they did some color grading to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're playing this back here, I mean, through the system, and it's full frame rate with color, with a grade on it, and you should see this on the 4K monitor. If you do a lot of this stuff and you want to see it on this beautiful display, it just sends this right out to the monitor.
Yeah, it looks absolutely gorgeous on the 4K monitor.
So people do a lot of time lapse and with high res images, raw images.
Yeah,
you can do. Although Final Cut allows you to import raw, you can't really manipulate the raw data because there's no there's no
for stills.
There's no camera raw built into it. I think that would be really good for Apple to add in the near future. Do it for Aperture. Why can't it just be built into Final Cut? But it's another story. But the fact that you can do this is pretty amazing.
Well, just to have a 4K production pipeline.
Yeah, you don't bring it to JPEG and make it smaller. 4K images playing back in real time.
It's absolutely fabulous. So those are two examples. One more example. I'm going to jump over to motion. Okay.
Now I can't wait to see this because there's not been a lot of talk about this setup in motion
and what you can do in motion.
Exactly.
So if I go to the Promise drive, I have a motion project here, and this project is actually based on a training. We have a brand new motion training that goes for new users on how to use motion. And this project, I'm just going to jump forward a little bit to show you. It's got a sort of a label on here and an animation and a bunch of particles. And this label has a whole bunch of elements. It's all built right within motion. On my MacBook Pro, which generally has outstanding playback performance for motion. I've been very happy designing in motion on that, especially connected to like this Thunderbolt display. But this particular project with all the replicators and particles and text and things going on plays back about 4 frames per second on that machine. On this machine, if it's not connected to a capture device, right now we're going out HDMI and we're doing a screen capture, so that affects the performance. So we'll see what we get. But when I was doing this, I'm getting full frame rate playback. In fact,
24 frames, 23 frames a second.
Yeah, and let's even let it go through once and cache into RAM. And this is where, in terms of performance, we're taking the benefit of the graphics card.
Look at that, 24 frames per second with particles, with background, with replicators.
Versus 4 frames on my laptop.
And look, you're doing some sort of slow-mo thing? I mean, are you doing some sort of a...
So she's got optical flow applied to her, which is another thing, because optical flow is something that has to run and be calculated, and this will calculate optical flow twice as fast as the MacBook Pro. So for me, who likes to use motion a lot, this is a really exciting thing because it's so fluid and easy to work in motion and actually throw a lot of stuff at it. And more we're going to be building 4K projects in motion because you're going to build them for Final Cut.
And that's my lovely daughter, Rachel.
It is your lovely daughter, yeah. So that's just a totally separate kind of example of what's possible. So just to complete the 3 legs of the stool here, the 3 legs of performance, render and output. I'm not going to actually output a project here because it's not very interesting to see. But straight out of Final Cut, it's twice as fast. Again, as a MacBook Pro, it's twice as fast to export something than it is.
Because I know a lot of the output is handled by the GPUs.
Yeah.
Right. So because you have those dual graphic cards, that I'm sure that comes into bearing with a lot of the processing when it's spitting out a file.
It's a good point. In fact, if I launch Activity Monitor and we look at these are the CPUs. If I'm playing back motion with this, you'll see that the CPUs are idle.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
Yeah, they're doing very little because this is taking advantage of these D700 dual graphics cards with 6 gigs of VRAM on each one. This is where we're using the power of the graphics card extensively. When we were importing and transcoding media, that's using the CPUs.
Yes.
You'd see all these, at least half of these anyways, pegging as that went under. So, a couple examples there of performance of doing a red raw workflow, of doing time lapse, photo, and then of motion.
Yep.
And
Fantastic.
then so we're going to do, we've got one more thing, but we're going to break it into a separate episode.
Yeah, so pretty impressive, this configuration here. Like Mark said, in the next lesson, we're going to actually look at multiple streams of playback vis-a-vis the multicam edit feature in Final Cut Pro 10. So you don't want to miss that. So we'll see you in the next lesson.